voice in Firestorm. Our primary method of communication in World here in Eretz Tova is voice. We do have text chat as well, and I made a little video on that. That's down here. We use that for tech support and a couple other minor things. But voice or audio is the main way that we communicate. Just a note about that. We aren't using streaming video. Okay, this is not a Zoom call. What we have basically is an avatar. These things download, and then once they're downloaded, we don't really need to use much bandwidth for that. So the major bandwidth is really audio, which is nice because that's much lower than video. And so people in parts of the world where they don't have good internet connection, or people who live on farms or in the rural areas where maybe they don't have very fast internet, they can still use this quite adequately. But we need to set up voice and know how to use it. So to do that, first we need to go into preferences. Control P, or we can go up into avatar and go down to, where is it, preferences here, or Command P on the Mac. On the left, we go down to the category sound and media. We click that. The first tab here has all your volume controls. This has nothing to do with voice. This won't affect your microphone. But there are a couple areas in World where I have some in-world volume, and this will control that. You can also access this up here with a little volume control. You just hover over that, and these same bars here will show up. But we do very, very little of that, so don't worry about that. This is the tab you want. Okay, so preferences, sound and media, voice. Now, I'll come back to some of these things here. There's just a couple settings in here. This is the most important thing, the audio device settings. This is where you set your, or where you tell Firestorm which mic to use and which audio output. Is it going to go to your speakers? Is it going to go to earbuds or a headset or what? This is where you set it. But when you click this button, two things happen. If you have voice already set up, because sometimes we have to go back in there and reset things. If you have it already set up, nobody can hear you. So if I'm having to help you do this while we're live, then I will probably write this part out in text, because once you click this, nobody else is going to hear you. The other thing is when you click this, you're going to hear yourself, a bit of echo. So I'll show you. Just wait a second here. Okay, you can see that my mic is working, but you can also hear an audio, right? It's not terrible, but it's a bit annoying. So I'm going to show, okay, it's not terrible, but it's a bit annoying. So I'm going to display a picture of that instead in order to explain it. This is the picture of what you see when you click on the audio device settings. And because it's just a picture, we don't get this echo. So in here we have two areas. We have input and we have output. So input is where you select your mic. If you click this, you'll see a pop down of all the microphone devices you have on your computer. If you have a laptop, you typically have one built in. If you have a desktop, you may have a webcam, an external webcam that's sitting on your monitor that has a mic. So they'll all be listed here. And likewise, output, this is where you're going to list your speakers, your headphones, or whatever you have for output. Now, in these, you will probably see a bunch of names. You don't know what they are. So the method, the way we deal with this is just pick one, take a guess at which is the microphone you want to use, and the same with speaker, and then hit OK, or hit device, close this here, hit OK, and then we'll test it. And if it's not the right one, you come back in here, preferences, sound and media, voice, click this thing, and then try a different one, and then click OK, and we'll test it again. Now let me show you just what the pop downs look like. Actually, I'll do that live. Before I do that, there is also an input volume. This is a volume control for your microphone. You'll notice mine is just a touch above half. This is quite sensitive. I wouldn't raise it too much, because if you do, then this starts to redline and you get a lot of distortion. So if you need to adjust this, adjust it just a touch, click OK, test it, ask people what it sounds like, and then come back. Don't just push it right up like that. Okay, let me show you what my drop downs look like. The items that are listed in here will be dependent on your computer, so it'll be different on everybody's computer. So I'll go in here, input. I know we got some echo here, but so I've got all these mics, okay? And speakers, I've got all these here. Usually there's a default. Maybe there's always a default. Pick the one that seems to make sense for you, and then close this, and then click OK, and then we'll test it. So why don't I show you how to test it? We'll come back in here and I'll explain some of these things here. So click OK. These are the two buttons that relate to the microphone and the headphones. By the way, I do really prefer if people use headphones rather than speakers, if at all possible, because speakers, the audio that comes out of your speaker can come back into your mic and create echo. And you won't hear it, but everybody else will hear it, and it's very annoying. Now, I know people like to use speakers because they like to do other things while the class is going on. They don't necessarily want to be tied to it, so people are folding laundry or whatever. If you need to use speakers or you want to, then please keep your volume down, or if you can, tilt your speakers away from your microphone. And then the other thing, of course, is just mute your mic. If you mute your mic, then nothing is going to come back in through your mic. So then you can use your speakers. And when you speak, the rest of us will try to be quiet so that we don't create echo. Okay, so that's my little spiel on headphones. These are the two pertinent buttons. Let me show you this one first because it's simpler. This here, okay, it's hard to demonstrate, but if there are other people in world with voice on, you will see their name and you'll see a little volume control for them. That allows you to adjust their volume for you, okay? So what happens in here only affects you. You're not adjusting their mic volume. This is just how loud they are to you. And sometimes their mics are lower or their mics are too high or whatever. And if that's consistent, you can take someone and you can raise or lower their volume. Okay, so that's pretty simple. This one is your mic button. Now, notice that I have a check mark here. I'll show you how that works, and then I'll show you what it's like without the check mark. So you can go without as well. So let's put it on, which is the recommended state that I recommend. So when we click it, then we see green arrows emanating from a slightly sort of a whitish dot that's above our avatar head. So if I move around against a different background here, let me just fly for a second, get up. There, you can see the dot more clearly there. So this is indicating that I'm speaking, and it matches my voice. Also down here, you see the green waves as well. So that's one way to tell if your mic is working. Ideally, it's best to check it with somebody else around so they can tell you if it's too loud or too soft or whatever. I click it again. Now the mic's off. Now, the check mark affects the type of button, affects how the button functions. If it is on, if the check mark is there, then the button is a toggle, okay? Just like a light switch in your house. You click it once, it turns it on. The mic is on. You can go do something else. If you click it a second time, then the mic is off. If I don't have the check mark on, if I take this off like that, then I have to keep the button depressed in order to speak. And as soon as I go to do anything else, then the mic goes off. So let me just fly down here. I want to show you practically what this means. So we're often, or almost 100% of the time, we're reading Hebrew text. So let's imagine we are zoomed in on here, and I'm speaking this way. So my turn to speak, and so I'm holding this down. I can tell I'm speaking because I can see the green waves in the text chat area, even though I can't see my avatar. But then I want to go zoom in, and so I move my cursor up here. I'll show you how to zoom, how to control your camera in a different video. But I zoom in here, take a look at this thing, and I'm not speaking, or no one can hear me because my mic is off. So because we are interacting with our environment, doing things, especially camera movement, you really want to keep this on so that people can hear you while you're doing other things. Okay, so keep this check on. Now, another point of confusion, actually 2 points of confusion that I think people are experiencing. It's a little hard for me to know because I can't see what they're doing, but sometimes people are trying to click and things aren't working. Often it's because this is off and they click in it and they're releasing. Okay, so your mic is only on then for that fraction of a second during that click. So make sure this is on. That's the first thing. The second thing is people look at their mic and they're not sure if it's on or not, because when they click it and they release it, if you click it and release it, there's not a lot of difference. I can see the difference, but there's not a ton of difference. If you roll your cursor off, then I think it's more visible. Okay, so here, okay, my cursor's over here. I can see these buttons are all the same. They're all in their up state. If I click it and roll my cursor off, I can see it's in the down state. If my cursor is on it, it looks a bit more like the rest of these. But if I roll it off, then I can see clearly that the button is pressed and it's still down. It's still pressed down. So just 2 points that I think trip people up a little bit. So that's how you use your mic button. Keep it like that. If you're using your speakers or you have a scratchy mic or you have background noise, you got a dog eating a bone, or it's amazing how mics pick up stuff in your room. So be careful. Don't assume we can't hear. Especially if your mic is attached to a laptop sitting on a table. That table becomes a huge diaphragm, a huge microphone, and it picks up all over the place. If you're typing or you put down a cup or whatever, people will hear it. So you can mute it. You can turn your mic off. Do what you wish, and we will let you know if your mic is too loud. So that's how the mic works. Let's go back into preferences. I want to show you a couple of settings here. Starting at the top, this has to be on, enable voice. If you check that off, then voice is cut off. The voice server is separate from the virtual world server, okay? And one of the effects of that is that sometimes when you log off, you close Firestorm shut down, you can still hear what's going on, you can still use your mic. Okay, it's because it's a different connection going to a different server. It should shut it off, but I've noticed it doesn't always. So just be aware of that. But sometimes also we log on and things don't connect right. Sometimes some of us or people who logged on earlier are connected to the voice server, and then people who come later are connected to another instance of the voice server or another channel or something. So if that's the case, then we all need to reset, and you can use this button. You can either turn this on and off, or you can hit this little circular restart button, and that should put us all on the same voice channel. If that doesn't work, we'll just relog. Close down Firestorm, relog back in. That's the ultimate reset. This here is not really that important, but basically what it is I'll just read it here. It says hear voice from camera position or hear voice from avatar position. If it's on camera position, that means your voice, the voice distance is calculated from where your camera is. So let me just move this over here. So if I'm over here, zoomed in, so I will hear things around where my camera is because voice fades, okay? If I'm talking here using the microphone, okay, then people in this vicinity, just like text chat, will hear me, but people over a certain distance, they won't hear, okay? So voice is spatially controlled in this world here. And it's also sometimes you get left ear, right ear. If someone's on your right, you'll hear them through the right ear, and if on the left, you hear them over there. So as you move around, the voice will change. So here from camera position means that it's going to be centered on wherever your camera is. If it's avatar position, like this, then even if your camera is over way here close to the board, it's going to hear, oh, how should I put this? The center of your hearing is going to be at your avatar. Now for us, usually we are close enough together and close enough to the board we're listening to that it doesn't matter. But just be aware of that. If you realize, oh, I can't hear and I'm camming, I'm looking at something far away, it's probably because of this setting here. These things don't matter, just leave them up as default. Yeah, the rest is normal. So now, finally, voice is a bit finicky in the sense that when you use other programs, like if you go use Zoom or Skype or something like that, then Skype will take your microphone, the audio device, and when you relog back into Firestorm, it may have lost it. So it's not uncommon to have to go back in here, preferences, sound and media, voice, audio device settings, and reset this. Okay, this may have bounced off the default. Okay, if you didn't hear that, you have to go back in here and reset, especially your mic. Speakers too. So this is the one area in preferences where we do find we need to go back there, not infrequently. It's not difficult. Just go in here, set this here again, and then you should be good. That is voice, the settings, and the microphone usage.